Hi everyone, it's Sandia, Yukon and Alpha, and welcome back to the We channel, your We channel, where we align your thoughts, your emotions, your subconscious, and your everything about your internal world actually, that aligns and then becomes a we, and that moves forward and creates the life that you want, the life that you deserve. And this is the introduction to the corporate series. I myself have been in corporate for 25 years. I run my own business now. But I've cut my chops in corporate for many, many years. And my efforts and the way I was in corporate over the 25 years was largely misguided and misdirected. I'd say about 90% of the way I was in corporate was misguided and misdirected because I did not fully understand myself, and I did not see myself outside of myself, and how I was playing certain things out in certain roles that were assigned to me psychologically, and going through all the trauma of corporate. And it sounds really dramatic, the trauma of corporate, but surviving corporate, for those of us that have been in corporate, we know what we're talking about, I've worked for multi-billion-dollar corporations, for banks. I've had small roles, medium roles, big roles. I was a trainee in the early 90s, and last few years of corporate, I was a GM, I was an executive manager. I'm a group strategist by profession, so I've had so many different roles. I've made some of my best friends in life have come from corporate. Some of my former bosses are now my best friends, and we all have a laugh about the craziness that we all experienced. And it's such a journey because you spend about 8 to 12 hours of your day in corporate. That's a large percentage of your time. You spend more time with your boss and with your colleagues than you do with your family. By the time you get home, you don't have anything to give them. You're so tired, for one, you're exhausted. You've been on the road for hours. So the corporate minefield just dominates our lives so much. So especially now that we in lockdown, the same dynamics are happening. It's just playing itself out in a different way online. And we'll talk about that some more just now. We know we don't want to make it about a lockdown thing, because how you were before lockdown is pretty much what's going to play out during lockdown. So that's another thing. And I call it the prisoner of war camp. It sounds so dramatic, but corporate is like that because there's often this thing at work. Okay. I used to call it a thing, but I'm going to use really horrible words now for the next few minutes just to describe the situation, so you know the players that we're talking about. And then we're going to describe how we're going to reframe that, But for the purpose of this discussion, we've all been surrounded by this psycho, this thing at work that you call sometimes your boss, sometimes it's the HR lady, it's the company's agenda, it's the CEO, it's these characters, and you wonder, how on earth did I land up with this character in my life? I'm such a good person. I go to church, I pray, I give my tidings. I've done this X, Y, Z in my life. I know the shoes I've walked in. I know the journey I've been in. Why do I deserve to have this psycho in my life screaming at me, yelling at me, telling me I'm useless, talking to me in an abusive way, making me work Saturdays, Sundays, knowing I have the kids, knowing my mom, I'm looking after my mom, knowing I've got these things that I'm dealing with in my private life, and yet I get abused in my off time, not to mention my time at work. So we've had these characters, and we sit and we think, gosh, where did they breed these characters? Is there a farm? Is there a factory that they produce them and they send them out? Because they're completely psychotic. You'd swear this was some alien that suddenly appeared in your life, and it would happen in different ways. Like someone would be really nice and then they get promoted and then they become something else, something takes over and you wonder what's going on. So this is just the start of this corporate series where we're going to talk all about these things. And like I said, I've been in corporate forever. I've been retrenched 5 times as a single mom, wondering how am I going to, pay my bills, pay my child's fees. What am I going to do if I'm out on the streets, just gripped by fear constantly over the 25 years. And not listening to the messages that were coming up my way because I was surrounded by fear. I was encased in fear, but I thought I was fine. Over the 25 years looking back, I had a lot of fun, I had a lot of drama, I had a lot of bad moments, but I could have done things so much better for myself, so much easier had I applied what I'm about to tell you. And what we want to do is want to just like park aside lockdown, park aside different things, and let's just bring it back to the beginning, when you stepped in and you wrote a contract with the company. That contract, the first time you did it, that contract was really a marriage, it's very much a marriage. When you go on a first date, you want to know what family do you come from? Who are your people? What are you good at? What are you bad at? Will you be able to look after me when the chips are down? What are your diseases? Our kids don't get that passed on to them. You want to know all these things when you start dating, when you just start selecting a mate. And that's really what happens in corporate. So in corporate, you've come to the party with notions that you were fed when you were young. You were either taught these or you learned these. You were subjected to them. The scarcity, lack of money, the notion of scarcity, for example, the notion of having to work hard in order to get something. You have to work hard in order to be rewarded, or you have to be abused in order to get ahead, or you have to be abusive in order to get this. You have to trade your soul in some sort of way in order to be like this or to be successful. And you had notions of, when you were very, very young, of due to your circumstances and upbringing and the mistaken way we were taught when we were very, very young, of not being good enough, not being loved enough, not feeling loved and supported and cared for and catered, and not having any right to sustain happiness and peace. And a lot of us also don't know what we want to do. We end up getting qualified as in college, or dropping out, or going from high school, secondary school, straight into your first job. So we've already walked into our first job with baggage. So the company has brought their baggage to the table, and you brought their baggage to the table. You brought your baggage to the table, and no one opened their bags to see what was in the bags. Everything just proceeded at that point. So that's what happened when you first joined corporate, just to take a step back and look at it for what it is. You came with certain things to the table. And then life continued, because then in your 20s and in your 30s, your 40s, 50s and 60s, things happen in your life that were normal rites of passage. For example, in your 20s, you have more energy, you work longer hours, and that's normal. It changes in your 30s, you settle down maybe, you have kids, your value system changes because it becomes more about the kids, or you're more single, you're more independent. So that changes. But in your 20s, you bought your first coffee table and your first fridge. You started living independently, or your early 18s, when you were an early adult. You started acquiring goods, furniture, a fridge. You didn't actually know that you could go out into a store and purchase a fridge on hire purchase, or however you bought it. And then you took it home and plugged it in, and you were like, oh, I've got stuff. And then slowly you started acquiring more stuff in your life. You started getting your apartment, your house. You started getting married. As a man, you got married for the first time. As a woman, you felt pregnant for the first time. You bought a house, a car. There were so many things. Now you have insurances, plural. So now you're sitting with these insurances, and in the back of your head, in corporate now, at the back of your head, there's this constant thing that you're being tied to. On the one side, you're being tied to the stuff that you have, the family that you've got to look after, the kids, your parents. And who's going to pay for all these things that you've bought, these things that you actually love? Actually, you've chosen them deliberately. They're part of who you are. But somebody's got to pay for all of this, whether you're rich or whether you're poor, whether you have a bed, somebody's got to still pay for the light over your head, whatever your circumstances are. So as you move through life, you acquire, which is normal, and you become deliberately held hostage to these things that you've now acquired. Your family, your spouse, your kids, the house, the 2.5 picket fence, that's now holding you hostage later on in life. How did you get here? And in the meantime, you've come in with baggage into the company, and you've encountered the psycho, for want of a better word, okay? We'll just call him or her a psycho for now. And you're wondering, between these two things, I am literally torn. I don't know what to do. And now you're in lockdown, and now you've got a separate set of fears. And being retrenched 5 times, I'm feeling your pain. So I know what some of you are going through. I've been there so many times. I've gotten called into the office. I've received that letter. I've received it a few times, and I've been escorted out the door. You are now retrenched. So I know people, my butterflies, I know the feeling and the fear, thinking that that's going to happen to you. So all of these things are going on, and you've got this person on your left, him or her, or the HR person. You've got the family back home, and you've walked into baggage already with this company, and all you've done over the 20s and the 30s in your career is built and added on to that baggage. So now let's look at your behavior at work. So you have your water cooler posse, your crew, your roll dogs, the ones that you hang out with that can feel your pain about the system. You're raging against the system. Did you see this email I got? Did you see how she spoke to me? Did you see what he did? Did you see how he copied everyone? Did you see what he said to me in the meeting? It was unacceptable. How is this person even married? What are they like at home? You're torn, and you furious, and you're angry, and you're upset, and you're hurt, because it's a relationship. You're in a relationship with your boss, just like in a relationship with everybody else. And that relationship with the company is just as important as the relationship with other people. Everyone dismisses it, but it's such a big part of who we are. We spend so many hours there that if we don't understand our role in companies, if we don't understand the governing rules, the law of attraction, the law of like, the law of harmony, if you don't understand the laws of the world, and you don't understand the roles that you are inside an organization, then you're going to be fluctuated. You're going to be like a yo-yo. They're going to control you, and you're going to feel like you're being controlled, and you're going to feel abused continuously, whether you now working from home or working at the company. So you have your crew at work, and they all sitting and having a fat old gossip. And in South Africa, in Africa, there's a lot of vernacular languages. We have quite a lot of official vernacular languages. And sometimes if the boss is a different race, the staff, and they're a different culture, different race as well. And then they will start talking in vernacular about the boss. It's really funny if you're sitting on the one side. And the boss won't understand what they're saying, but you get into this gossipy, bitching routine with them. Oh gosh, look at this idiot. Look what the idiot is doing now, and you just shake your head, and all of you shake your head. Or you go into a meeting, and then somebody works you up during lunch. They work you up into a state. Oh, did you see what they did last week? And do you remember what they did last year? You've got to say something. You the right person. They build you up. You the right person, because you have tenure, you have legacy. You're so clever. You know how to say these things. People try to manipulate you unknowingly. They're not doing it deliberately, but you allow yourself to get manipulated through your ego, through blowing yourself up, And then you go into the meeting, and then you pick up your hand, and you raise your hand, and you ask that all-intelligent question, because you are so clever. You can take this individual out now with your cleverness. So you're really playing all these different roles, and psychologically there's quite a few archetypes, and often the archetypes that play out at work is the rescuer and the perpetrator, the victim and the perpetrator. Those archetypes play out all the time at work. And what are you doing? You're waiting for the rescuer to come and rescue you. You want to win the lottery. You want your spouse to receive an inheritance. You want to just you want this person to drop dead and die. You know, you fantasize about that. Let's be honest, we've all had fantasies, crazy fantasies, you know, that have just helped us get through the day. You know, if only we go into the office and this person doesn't have to come in, I don't have to see them anymore because I just can't stand them, you know. So that victim and perpetrator role plays up the whole time, and then you get the rescue and the savior where you're waiting for another boss to step in or something to happen or the company to be taken over, and then you don't have to deal with them anymore. You're waiting for some event. And you're basically in an abusive relationship. And you can say, no, I'm not in an abusive relationship. No, I'm not getting bullied at work. Or I am getting bullied at work, because now you're in the victim mindset. And did you know what they did to me? Victims have a lot. Oh, another thing you have to watch out for. Victims have a lot to say. Victims can give you a long list of how they've been abused, when, how, the timestamp. They're the ones that can give you a blow-by-blow account. And they can convince you at the end of that they are really so innocent and they've done nothing wrong. And maybe you haven't done anything wrong. That's not the point. Who cares? The point is, you've assigned yourself a role and you've assigned them a role, and you're going to be stuck in this role. You can leave your job. You can apply for another job and get another job. Throughout your career, you can do that, or you can stay in this, or you can stay in the same company and get a different job description. But the energy that you carry into the next job description or the next company will be the same. The only thing that will change on the theater of your corporate stage is the name and the place and the people the names and the places. Those are the things that will change. But the roles will be the same. The pattern will be the same, because you're carrying all the stuff with you wherever you go. Whether you're at home, you're carrying it with you. Whether you go to another company, you're carrying it with you. So you want to be aware of these things, of the way you talk, so you can change it and change the dynamic. I've got a friend that lives in another country. It's a friend I've known for quite a while, and he's currently playing the single dad role in his family, because his wife is on the other side of the country doing her job, and they're making ends meet. They're doing the best that they can as a family. And he said to me, he said, oh gosh, Sandia, I just can't understand this woman, this boss that I'm reporting to. She's such a bitch. She is disgusting human being. She abuses me. She knows that my wife is going through something at the moment. She knows the difficulty I'm having. I'm juggling being a single dad for all intents and purposes. And then she can see I've copied her on the email. She knows that I'm dealing with other departments that are delaying me. She knows the problems that I'm having. She knows why there's delays. She's copied on everything, but she still screams at me. She wants me to deliver XYZ. I'm required to work till 10, 11 at night after having seen to the kids. I don't even have a life anymore. And then by Friday, Saturday, she's turned around. She then sends an apology. She's like, oh, a half apology. And she says, oh, I know you're dealing with a lot, and I know you've tried your best. And then I think she's okay. And then Monday, the entire cycle starts again. So I said to him, let's call him John. I said to him, John, do you know you can say no? And he said, what? And I said, you can say no, because there's other people in the department that she has gone to, and they have said no, and you are just not seeing and hearing those conversations. You are not privy to when she phones them, or when before lockdown she's called them into her office. You were not standing there. So understand that a bully, whether they're in the playground at 7 years old or whether they're in the playground at work, a bully, a person who's used to abusing, has to have someone to play with. They have to have a person who feels abused, who feels victimized. It works both ways. You can't have one and not the other. So in order to understand where you fit in, just have a look at how you feel. If you're feeling tormented and abused all the time, then chances are that you are putting yourself in an archetype, a psychological role that you don't actually need to put yourself into any time. So my friend, let's call him John, my friend said to me, but I can't say no because what if she fires me? So you've immediately jumped to the conclusion that she can fire you. And yes, maybe in some instances she can, but often you've bought into the fear already. You've already contracted yourself into the fear. So there's no bargaining from them. They've won. But often when you say no, firstly, it's the way you do it, the way you say it. You can't just go in there, email the whole world and say no. That's not going to work. Understand yourself before you say no. Understand that, I'll give you an analogy. How do you differentiate crystal from glass? When you hold crystal up to the light, there's a certain prism, a rainbow of light that it gives. When you hit it and at a certain angle, there's a musical ring it makes. And that's how you differentiate crystal from glass. And you are like crystal. You've just lost your sound, your bell that's ringing true. You've not heard it for a very, very long time. And when you start hearing your bell, you're able to say no, and you're able to stay true to your sound, stay true to your vibration and what really is who you are, your essence. And when you start saying no, and it's aligned to hearing your bell and your essence, then that's when you've now transcended the fear. That's when you've stepped aside, outside of your fearful self. You've stepped aside, listened to your bell ringing true, and risen up, and then said with that power, you've said no. So it's not coming from a fear-based power. It's coming from that power, that thing that's greater in you. And you will notice that bullies, those kind of people, they do not go towards people that are standing true in their power. They don't know how to have a conversation with them. None of their tactics work, and none of their strategies work on these people. And you can choose where you want to be, which kind of person you want to be, because in different situations in work, in a department, you will find people that play different roles. You'll have people that take on 3 jobs because, oh, hey, newsflash, in the organigram, there's no budget to fill out these 2 job titles. So you're going to have to take on 2 more people's jobs. Thank you. And that's how you're being treated at work, So Jack Walsh, CEO of General Electric, former, he always said that there's different, you have a certain percentage, you have the workers, you have people that are useless in the department, you have people that are the workers, and you have the small percentage that shine, and then you have the people that you don't need, the rotten apples, I forget how he said it exactly, but cut them loose, let them go and be a hero somewhere else, But he said that there are those people that will really, really work like a dog, like a slave. And you don't have to be that slave. You can still do your work, still be proud of your work, but you don't have to put up with abuse. And you don't have to put up with it during lockdown or post-lockdown, for that matter, because all those dynamics, all those things that happened in your career and were happening at the company are being played out online as you're sitting, opening up your computer, sitting at home. As you're sitting, that's what's happening. So this video is just an introduction to the corporate series to say that you can take your power back at work, but you have to understand what brought you to that point, because you're feeling hostage on so many things. You're feeling hostage at work, hostage earning the salary, doing a job that most of us, do not like the job we are doing. And even if we like it, we're feeling abused by this psycho now. And what happened is that this person and you all are both gripped by fears, okay? So you are gripped by a certain amount of fears and they're gripped by a certain amount of fears. So think of those fears as demons. So the demon is not the biblical sense of a demon. It's the demon of an out of control ego, for example, or it's the demon of I don't have enough, or it's a demon of I could be out on the streets. It's the demon of these fears that are always trying to best you, and that fear is sitting in the parking lot doing push-ups, waiting to rush in and take over. And the fear rushes in and takes over the way you talk and the way you think and the way you're standing with your water cooler posse and having a conversation and having a fat over gossip. And you need to think of the seats in your mind. Think of your mind as a theater, an amphitheater, and all the seats. Who's taking up space in those seats? Is it laziness? Is it gossip mongering? Is it fear mongering? Is it idle chit chatter? Because all those seats that are being taken up by stuff like that is working against your individual success, against your success as a human being, as a successful person at the office or at your company or wherever you want to go. All those things are working, taking up idle space. They're taking up valuable space by being idle and causing you to falter and causing you to have a break in your success and what you were designed and put down on this earth to do. So think of them having a demon and you having the demon that's being controlled, and they're not aware of it. And most of the time, we're not aware of it. Well, we're not aware of it, actually, unless you do this kind of work, watch these kind of videos, read these kind of books, and start seeing yourself outside of yourself and understanding the dynamics at play. So the stronger of the demon is going to win in that conversation. It's going to outwit each other because you're both basically possessed by this demon, and that's how you're talking to each other. And Napoleon Hill wrote this fantastic book, Outwitting the Devil. The devil not being the biblical sense of the devil, but this out of control ego/fear that we're talking about, and how these other things take up space. And the people in your life, if you want to know where you are in your evolution at any point in time, look at the circumstances of your life and look at the people that you've surrounded yourself with, and look at the way they talk is the way you talk and the way they talk. Look at all those things, and if that's not where you want to go, that's not where you want to be, then it's time to make a change. And that's the introduction series to corporate, and it's just going to be lots of things, going for an appraisal, how to go about doing that. We're going to talk about how to respond an email, taking the company, if you're in the middle of going to the labor union process in your country, what to do. And there's just so much to do in corporate because corporates are so valuable. They give us this amazing playground and this platform to see ourselves and see how successful we can be and what amazing work we can do, but also to see how we can be pulled down so quickly and buy into certain notions that don't serve us. So let's step outside of the matrix and take back control and put the we back in the workplace, and then move forward into the workplace, into corporate, and you can be the driving seat of what you want to do in corporate and the money you want to earn and the places you want to go, the kind of job you want to do, the job descriptions you want to do. There's so much to talk about. So stay tuned and we will talk to you soon. Lots of love. Bye.